War Eagle War Rapport family, I'm your host, C Dub. Auburn defeats San Jose State 24-16. We give our final thoughts on that game, as well as discussing what else we saw elsewhere in college football on week 2. All that and more on the latest edition of the Weekend Tailgate.
You are now listening to a War Rapport Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by
Athletic Architect.
It's your boy, I Jones. Be Will, C-Dog, Mike G. Get ready, sit on back as we bring you the War Rapport Weekend Tailgate.
War Eagle, everyone. War Eagle. Happy Sunday. Welcome to the latest edition of the Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by show sponsor Athletic Architects. In the age of NIL, if you are a student athlete, parent of a student athlete, or if you're just looking to start your own LLC, please be sure to visit buildthehouse.com. We thank them for being a sponsor of the Weekend Tailgate and supporting the War Rapport. We also thank you guys for supporting us as well. Here's several ways you can continue to do that other than watching our lives. You can definitely share this video on social media. Use the hashtag below as you're on Twitter, Facebook, so that people can find this content, get in on the conversation, help us grow our community. Smash the like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Now, here are some ways you can support us monetarily. You can become a patron. Tell them how you do that.
Yeah, well, all you've got to do is be awesome in your life in general, and then patronhood will find its way to you in our YouTube section. So click the join button, come on board to become a patron of the War Rapport. $3.99 gets you to supporter level and some membership benefits. Patron level gets you all of the things like watch the film, which we will be doing tomorrow. So make sure that you are here. I know you don't want to necessarily relive tomorrow what we had to live through last night, but sometimes it helps to get perspective on film so that we can highlight some of the things that maybe Auburn needs to work on and some of the things that we can definitely be proud of from our team and our players out there. So watch the film going down tomorrow. Make sure you guys are locked in there. Outside of that, you can get great things like giveaways for tickets. The next game coming up is Missouri. We'll be doing that giveaway prior to, well, Penn State's the next game, but the next ticket giveaway is Missouri. We'll be doing that prior to the Wednesday night show. So you have to be a member in order to be eligible to do this. And if last night you were tuned in and you were trying to get your chats in, you know, if you're not a member, you can't do that. So a lot of great membership benefits that we've got going on here at the War Rapport. More things to come for sure. If you are a member and want to be nice to the rest of the community and gift a membership to someone else, you can do that as well. From a desktop, you can go and gift memberships. We've had a lot of people doing that. Very appreciative to our members who are allowing others to be a part of the War Rapport community. This live and every live, we give away something today. We're going to do another mug. Hashtag get your weight up in the comments to be able to get this, sponsored by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Much props to Walt Taylor and all the things that he does for the War Rapport, including making sure that our community has great War Rapport merch. So you can hashtag get your weight up in the comments to have an eligibility to win this mug today. And hopefully, you know, that mug will bring you joy, unlike last night's game.
Still was a dub nonetheless, but
Hey.
you know, I get it. Struggle win. And I see someone put a comment in: the struggle win is always better than a loss.
Factuals.
For sure. And as Mike G said yesterday, we're not A&M, so that is something to feel good about there. Guys, I was out yesterday. It was surprisingly loud in the press box for some reason. So I wanted to hop on, kind of give some takes as much as I could, but I could not. I have a few thoughts from yesterday. I am a bit concerned moving ahead to Penn State. I am definitely there are some legitimate concerns there with our team. I'm not panicking though. I don't think it makes sense to panic, but there is just cause for concerns. I want to start with the things that I was proud of and some things that were positive. First thing I want to start with is TJ Finley. and had a chance to talk with a few of the players after the game. Papo, Javaris Johnson, even TJ Finley himself. And they all said that at the half, TJ got with the players, defense, offense, and says, guys, let's cut out the mistakes. I got y'all. Let's come out and play some ball. They all corroborated that story. And TJ had a good second half, running the offense, leading the offense. After he threw the pick, he was a different TJ. Shouldn't have thrown the pick, but we saw leadership. And in moments like that, you want to know who your leaders are, who's going to rally the team, who's going to rally the troops, who's going to go out there and play ball. TJ Finley did that. I was happy to see that. I was happy with our run game for the most part. Tank didn't have the game he had during Mercer, but we saw a running back by committee. I was pleased with Damari Austin with the opportunities he got. He had a very big run. We saw the explosiveness that we was raved about when we were recruiting him. Hunter had another good game as usual. Robbie Ashford was Robbie Ashford when he got the ball in open space. So I like what we saw there with the running game. Run defense was, for the most part, solid. I think their opposing quarterback was keeping us honest with his arm and legs, so we couldn't play downhill against him on the read option as much as we wanted to. But our run defense, for the most part, and there was some moments in our secondary I was pleased with. You guys pointed it out yesterday. Keontae Scott was balling. I was pleased with DJ James as well from what I saw in the press booth. So there were some things that definitely point out there. Here are my concerns. My concerns with this team is focus. We talked with Harsin, and say what you want about Brian Harsin. You don't have to like him. You don't have to like his offense. But one thing you cannot accuse him of is being dishonest.
Right.
He described practice this last week as being decent. Which tells me those guys were not locked in all week last week. If he described practice as decent, and it showed in the first half. The mistakes, the miscues, the poor execution, that's a focus problem. And so I salute TJ for stepping up in the locker room and saying, hey, guys, let's go ball. But my question is, why did it take you being down 3 points to an inferior opponent for you to decide, hey, let's go out and play? That should have been there the first half. And my concern is not against Penn State, because teams that tend to have a focus problem have a tendency to play up and down to their opponent. I'll be surprised to see this next week against Penn State, because I think these guys understand how big of a game that is. What concerns me is when a Western Kentucky comes into town or Missouri comes into town. Are you going to take a week off that week because it doesn't appear to be a high stakes game? Are we going to have a decent week of practice because it's not LSU, it's not Georgia? And so that's something that I want to keep an eye on with this team moving forward, is our focus. Are we locked in? And this is a coach that pays attention to that and understands if we're going to play for championships, everything we do matters, and how you prepare throughout the week dictates how you play in the game. In fact, if you don't practice well throughout the week, we may not see you in the game. And so I think yesterday told a story to how locked in this team was, for sure. My other concern is the offense in terms of its identity. Now, in the offseason, they talked about being a downhill rushing attack. We're running the ball, but I want to know moving forward, how do we attack a Penn State? How do we use a Robbie Ashford? Because Robbie wants to be the quarterback. And I have a bit of a different take. It's not really a wild take, but I really think Robbie has been an experiment of sorts these first two games. And I think because of his athleticism and his giftedness, just with what he's able to do when he's in open field, I think obviously that got him on the field. But I think the reason he's been much of an experiment is because of my knowledge of this coaching staff. This coaching staff really does value people who are experienced in their system and offense. It's like an NFL franchise. They'll bring a guy in and they want him to learn the offense. And I ask myself if Ashford, and I'm rooting for Ashford. I like the kid. But if Ashford didn't have those physical gifts, how much would he factored into this competition? If he didn't have that ability with his feet, how much of him will we be talking about? Now, he'll still be the number 2 probably, but Finley was the number 2 last year, and we didn't see him until the number 1 guy clearly couldn't play. And so my question is moving ahead to Penn State, teams that have good coaching, athletic, like talent, how are you going to use him? Because Penn State's preparing for him. The LSUs are preparing for him. How does he factor in? What is this identity? I'm not saying we don't have one. I'm just curious to see what is it after 2 weeks, because it feels like we've been experimenting for 2 weeks with this offense. What will we see when we take the field against Penn State is my concern. And whatever it is we do, we got to be able to strike early. I don't want to have to come from behind with the offense that we've been toting out there. We're not built to come from behind with this offense. We got to strike early. At halftime, I got the numbers here. San Jose State ran 40 plays to our 28.
Right.
They almost doubled us in time of possession. For all the issues and concerns we got with the defense, we can't leave them on the field, guys. I don't care who you're playing against. They will eventually figure the defense out. And so by the time they figure out the defense, we should be so far ahead that it's garbage points. But instead, we had a ball game last night.
Yeah.
Our offense and this has been the frustrating point with our we've had elite defenses over the past several years, but no one nationally would recognize it because we kept them on the field. They would give up points and yards that if they were not on the field as much, they would look just like the Georgias and the other teams with great defenses that they praise. We got to figure out a way to keep our defense off the field. We got to win. We can't lose time of possession to San Jose State. I'm sorry. And we can't continue to do that when we get in SEC games and lose time of possession. Now, you guys talked about turnovers. I don't have to belabor that point. But we just got to figure out what this offense is really doing. And I don't want to see us struggling the first several drives against Penn State. That's going to leave me really worried about what we got on offense. But that's my thoughts. Guys, your thoughts. I'll start with you, B.
Or not.
Freeze?
No,
he's stuck in the Matrix. My bad. Y'all got me on here.
You back.
I mean, I rewatched some of the first half to see how we got to the point where both guys threw an INT and how it looked. In our post game, I think I said this, and now I'm more sure of it than ever. Whoever gets the time to control the offense and learn it and get better will be significantly improved the more they play. We're out of time. Time's up. The time to see what we can do, to see if a guy can take it, to see if TJ can take command and make the right reads and the right throws, the time is up. We would like more confidence going into Penn State, going into big boy play, that no matter who we threw out there, it was going to be the right decision. It was going to be the best player. Far enough along in his development that we didn't have to worry about whether or not the floor was still low enough to cost us games. But what we've seen is that the floor is still low enough for TJ, even if it is a misread or a poor fundamental that results in a bad throw, it's still a turnover. It still costs us games. Robbie, he made a good read. Every time he gets on the field, like C said, he's electric. He made a good read on the throw. Bad throw. Turnover. And it's why they were in the game with us for almost 3 whole quarters.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be the case anymore. And where we are at right now, I understand. Like, I woke up feeling like, man, this feels like a loss. It feels like a loss. And it wasn't a loss, but it feels like a loss because I expected so much better of them. after watching San Jose State on tape, after seeing what we did well and didn't do well from the first game, expecting us to improve in certain ways, it feels like a loss. And I didn't expect to be feeling like that going into Penn State. A lot of us we were either coming out of the first 5 games 4-1 or 5-0 for most of us. And that I almost feel like I need to rethink that. And I'm not off. I'm sticking with 5-0 until I see us actually look terrible against the big teams, because I am holding out hope that what they have game planned, what they have prepared, what they worked on in camp were things that they're going to be utilizing more when we get into big boy play. So we will see if we truly were going vanilla for the sake of going vanilla and holding some back, or if what we saw was really the range of floor to ceiling that we can expect. TJ looked better after he threw the INT, came back in second half, different dude, right? He's coming along. He's improving in real time. We're watching him improve in real time, but we're out of time. So how much longer until he's the guy that he doesn't have to apologize for making the bad throw on the right read? He just makes the right throw. He just plants that foot and doesn't launch off the wrong foot. How much longer until he can say, oh, I got rid of the ball, it slipped out of my hands, that was on me? I want us to be as consistent as possible. And it doesn't even have to be top open flying 60-yard bombs. I would prefer us have no mistakes than us have 50-yard chunk plays, because no mistakes is going to keep us on schedule. It's going to keep our defense rested. It's going to keep multiple people touching the ball. It's going to keep the offense looking fluid, and it's going to give us the best chance to win. 50-yard bombs are great, but if we're going to follow them up with INTs, we're going to hurt our defense. We're going to hurt our team. We're going to give the other team points. So I'm concerned. I'm concerned because I wondered if we would be ready by the time we hit this point, and I'm not sure that we are. But it doesn't matter anymore. Now we're going to have to do it with real bullets flying, that metaphor. It's going to have to be live action. You still have to improve week to week, but now all the games count. Now Brian Harson's job is at stake starting this week. This is where the evaluation starts in earnest. And I can't say either quarterback looks completely ready, but we got to go, man. So let's go.
B. Will's forehead says their coach was almost as giddy and excited as Mike G during Ike's Oregon rant. We will be fine. The team's attitude is so refreshing this year. I want to get Mike. I want to get your thoughts, but I do want to address the player of the game, because we tweeted that out this morning. The fans have responded. War Rapport player of the game is Tank Big.
Interesting choice by the fans. But
We'll get your take on that, Mike. We'll get your take on that. 13 carries for 51 yards, a touchdown. Tough running for him. He definitely had 4 catches and 21 yards. We got to see them use Tank other than him lining up as a running back and getting the ball. They actually tried to get him out in space a few times, and he was very productive in that regard. But Mike G, you said a pretty interesting choice. Thoughts?
I would have picked Eku or somebody on defense. I don't know that
I would have gone Derek Hall on defense.
I wouldn't have nominated anybody on offense for player of the game in this one. That's just me, though. I don't think they had the type of performance that the inconsistencies were just too many. Like, nobody had a great game. Robbie Ashford was the leading rusher. Well, we nominated Tank for player of the game. Like, I don't know, man. Like that feels off to me. In terms of storylines for this one, I'm at the point where I just think we need to stop with the he played good until he didn't, or he didn't play good and then he did play. That's the same conversation we had about the last quarterback. So literally the same conversation. We're past inconsistencies just need to not be there. They need to be anomalous more than they are expected. That's where we're at with everybody on offense in general, but particularly because the quarterback is under the gun. Yeah, I don't think it is particularly fair to say we can't separate the good from the bad. It's all one package. You had the first half you had. Regardless of why you had it, you had it.
Yeah.
And the only reason we're talking about it in a positive light is because you won the game. Right. But against a better opponent, and where we're talking about a loss, we're frying that performance.
Right.
And that's fair. That's completely fair. So it's time to move on from that narrative. In my mind, I'm like, hey man, we just need to see consistency, period. Because we don't have, like, we saw inconsistencies all over college football yesterday. Some teams have transcendent players that help them overcome those things. I haven't seen that on this team yet this season. Who's pulling us out the hole? Who's Supermaning us out the hole singularly? If we have a game where we're turning the ball over, we're doing all these things. If we played Penn State yesterday, we lose. Yeah. So significant improvement needs to happen between week 2 and week 3 if we're going to sit here and talk about a win in the aftermath. Now, again, the coaches say the quarterback gets, too much blame, too much praise, and whatever the saying is. But you do. You touch the ball every play, and this goes for both quarterbacks. Right now, I mean, we got to win football games now. So youth and inexperience can no longer be excuses. Go out there and execute. My concern is that we're running a base form offense and they're having trouble executing a base form offense.
Right.
The mistakes, the false starts, when I was cutting the film, the 4 straight penalties or whatever they had on the first, like, come on. What are we doing? To C's point about focus, that's a focus issue.
Yeah.
That is 100% a focus issue. And I don't care who it is. My guy, John Samuel Shanker, love John Samuel. Brother, you had a terrible game yesterday.
Bruh.
If he were here, he'd tell us that. So I don't have any issue saying that. And, again, for everybody else, I think we found out that Malcolm was hurt yesterday, which is why he didn't start at the Z. They put Coy out there. I don't have too many gripes with the receiver. Shed had a really disappointing holding penalty that was completely unnecessary. Some of the mistakes were sophomoric and they were just not great. The pick by TJ, like, come on, man. The one by Robbie too, come on, man. Just bad reads. So, like, I would caution, this, it's game 2, and in college football, you have to improve quickly, or all the people who said we're a 500 football team are right. So, before we have to start scaling back these predictions, you got to show improvement quickly, right? I'm not sure that they show that. I'm concerned as well, Caesar, going into week 3. But again, it's not that they can improve. I still have more questions about play calling and game planning than I do about the players. I wonder why was it they were able to come out after the half and execute the way they were, but not before. And if it's just simply not taking your opponent seriously, that's really disappointing. The team that got predicted to finish last in the West, not taking an opponent seriously, give me a break. They expected you to struggle. People were calling for us to lose this game. At halftime, I'm like, damn it, were they right? So I don't know. Like I said, they have to improve. Excuses be damned. They have to improve quickly. Everybody has to improve. The game plan needs to improve. If they were holding something back, I don't give a damn what the game plan is if you're not executing the things that you call.
Right.
So execution needs to improve, and guys just need to go out there and be focused and deliver the way they know they can. Second half TJ is the TJ we need to see every half.
Factual.
And I think that he can. I mean, that's where you're at, bro. That's where you're at in your point in your career. You're on your second team and your third season getting a chance to start for a major college football team. Second half TJ has got to show up more than first half TJ. And if you're Robbie Ashford, same thing. I mean, look, listen, man, the chances that you get are so small sometimes. that when you do get a chance, you have to go out there. You have to make the most of the opportunity. I wonder again if we're using him correctly. The flow of a pass to run with Robbie, I'm not sure it's getting him, to B's point. I'm not sure him more so than TJ, because he's got two facets to his game. I'm not sure we're allowing him to find a flow within the rhythm of the offense passing. I think it's very difficult to send somebody to go out there and run 5 times and then throw the ball.
Right.
I think it's harder, personally. So we're going to have to accept mistakes when we call on him to throw sometimes. But the mistakes need to be minimal, and they need to be more anomalous than they are right now, because we're 2 games into the season. We've got how many turnovers? 4 turnovers?
Yep.
4 turnovers, and we have not turned our opponent over once.
Right.
Do that again, and we're talking about an L next week.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. If they don't improve, we're talking about an L next week, because Penn State, you can say what you want about what they lost and Sean Clifford being mid, they're still a well-coached football team. James Franklin has a well-coached football team that knows what their expectations are, and they will play to the max of whatever their ability is. That's what I expect from Penn State. So I don't care how mid they looked in the first 2 weeks. We're not beating them if we play like we did this week.
Factual. Let me get some super chats real quick. Javion, appreciate that. Says they just posted the poll. Penn State is 22. I expected them to be ranked coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Walt Taylor, TWR fam, Texas A&M. I like what you did there. Notre Dame and no brass.
Notre Dame.
Enough said. Well
Walt.
said. Good to see you there, Walt.
You sly poots.
Ike, before we kind of get, because I definitely want to talk in depth about some of the things we've kind of already highlighted. Before we get to the break, just kind of your thoughts, just kind of to summarize, just going into this week, your thoughts on where we are right now.
Yeah, I mean, I said this a little bit last night. I do expect the team to play better against Penn State, but it is unfortunate that, and I've seen some people in the chat say this, that the first half of this game felt reminiscent of the 8 years prior to the Harsin administration, where you have games where we inexplicably did not look like a team that belonged on the field. It just was like, what are we doing right now? The thing I will say is, unlike the previous time, and I know people get mad when I start making these comparisons, it didn't seem like we were committed to a bad plan. The second half, they were like, all right, you know what? Throw all that out the window. We're going to do this. Because the second half looked nothing like the first half. Right. Strategically, play calling, nothing. They went into the locker room and they said, this isn't working. We're going a different direction. And that different direction got us the win. I can't say that I have ever seen that to my recollection with the previous coaching staff.
That's fair.
We eked out wins.
We didn't go 10 straight drives without a score? Is that what you're saying? Okay, all right. We didn't go. Okay, all right.
So they were able to change directions. You came out in the second half and you were like, oh, wow, they really did make adjustments. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't recall seeing adjustments before. So that's the one thing I will say. Where I'm disappointed is the point that Brian, or really everybody has made, is the lack of focus from the whistle. From the very first kick, you've got to come in focused. And the lack of focus, not necessarily in, we weren't breaking off 40-yard runs. I know everybody likes to see the big plays. It's the penalties, right? It's the holdings and false starts, right? The pass interference calls, the offsides, the like procedural penalties, where it's like, guys, what are we doing? You're letting them into this game by just screwing up, giving them short fields on interceptions, right, giving them free replays of downs, giving them first downs on penalties, negating long plays with stupid holding calls. Like, you're doing all of the things that allow a lesser opponent into this game. It wasn't because I don't feel like we got out-coached last night. We got out-focused by the play. Like, they came in more, because let's be clear, San Jose State actually was screwing up a bunch.
Yeah, it was their Super Bowl. It was definitely their Super Bowl.
They screwed up a lot, and we just happened to screw up more in the first half, which allowed them to stay in it. The second half, we cleaned it up, and we were like, all right, let's just go smash these boys. I kind of wish we had done that from the beginning and just got the W and got out of there. What I will say to the point of, the back and forth QB and nobody getting in rhythm, I 100%, and I said this last night, believe the plan was for Robbie Ashford to throw more in this game. They were going to let him drop back and operate the offense, and then he threw a pick. And they were like, I don't know if he's ready. Whatever apprehension was in the back of their mind about not just having him come in and be, the Cordell Stewart / player, right, who comes in with the athleticism, who can play quarterback, but we're really just going to use him for gadgets, right?
Right.
Whatever apprehension they had about that was amplified the minute he threw that interception. Because he got greedy on it, honestly. Right.
He did. That was a much better read on that play.
He had an easy throw underneath. Yes, it wasn't a third down where he needed all of that.
Absolutely.
He saw his guy Landon King break open just beyond the linebacker, and he was like, I can hit him. And he undershot it. The better read, better throw. Again, not that Landon King wasn't open, because Landon was definitely open. But you got to make an amazing throw to get it there, because it's got to go right over the linebacker and dip in enough time for Landon to secure it before the DB closes.
That's the ultimate touch throw. That would have been like
it's got to be the perfect throw. Now, it's there, but if you don't hit it, there's really only two options here. A third, if you're being careful. The first of those two options is what happens. You undershoot it, and it either gets tipped or intercepted. The second one is you overshoot it and it gets intercepted. And the third is you miss to the sideline. Nobody catches it. I'd have rather the third of those three been the one that Robbie shot for. He shot for the perfect throw. It doesn't work in that scenario. Right. And so, again, because of what led to the interception, which is the decision Robbie made for, I'm going to go for the big play here, they were like, he's not ready. And fair or not, when again you have those apprehensions and you have a guy who has more command of the offense, up and down, blah, 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 he's going to get more opportunities to be able to rebound from that than Robbie is. You can say it's unfair all you want to, but when I have another option I can go to, I'm going to choose that option, because I know what I have in Robbie is a great runner. So I can just keep putting him in and doing that. I don't have to put the burden of the offense on him.
Right. Right. And that's what I say, Ike, when I use the word experimenting, I'm not committed to an experiment.
Right.
I'm not committed to it. So if it blows up, if it doesn't work, I can always go back to TJ. They would pull Robbie after he makes a good play. So what do you think is going to happen if he makes a bad play?
Right.
Yeah.
It's an experimentation is what I'm saying. And so that's why I always felt like he always had a shorter leash than TJ, even though if you ask the fans, they felt like Robbie should have the longer leash. But the coaches understand that TJ, again, this is more so my understanding of this coaching staff. They give a leash to people who they feel understands their offense the best. They're not looking at athletics and talent and all that. We know Robbie is gifted, but they feel confident in TJ. So for people clamoring, and I saw Auburn memes post something on Twitter, someone in the student section saying we want Calzada. Listen, if TJ at this point has to be injured for any of those other guys in the room to get, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, he has to get injured or really get look like first half TJ for the rest of the season.
If TJ had come out in the second half, like first half TJ,
he has to really crap the bed.
Yeah,
really crap the bed. But until that happens, if he's tinkering like this, the coaches are continuing to give him a leash until he gives them absolutely no reason to no longer do it. So that's just how I felt about it. I saw a lot of y'all's comments. It's when you're doing that, it is difficult to get a rhythm, whether you're TJ or Robbie Ashford, which in the end isn't fair to either one of them.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying identity for identity's sake. What are we doing going into Penn State? And give these guys a fair chance to operate the offense and show what they can do. Guys, we definitely we see your comments in watching live, but if you're watching on replay, we just want to know what you thought about the game. You heard our comments. We greatly appreciate you hanging out with us. We even appreciate it, guys, if you share this video. Share it on social media, Facebook, Twitter. Use the hashtag, smash the like button. And if you're new to our channel, first of all, welcome. But hit subscribe so that you can become a part of our family. Guys, let's take a quick break to acknowledge the sponsors of the War Rapport.
This edition of the War Report is made possible by our generous sponsors. AuburnSports.com. For news and notes on all things Auburn Sports, head over to AuburnSports.com. Athletic Architects. For young athletes looking to secure their financial futures, let Athletic Architects help you start to build your financial house. Head over to BuildTheHouse.com. And our giveaway sponsor, GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. If you want the best in the business at restaurant logistics, check out our friends at GWT2Energy.com.
Definitely shout out to our sponsors and shout out to those of you who have taken up the mantle of sponsorship in a quasi way by being members of the War Report. We appreciate you all so much. If you want to join the Green Name Brigade, you need to make sure that you come on board as a War Report member. You get all of the perks by doing that. Game day, it turns into a therapy session and you get a chance to scream at least into your chat with us after games or at halftime. You have to be a member to be able to do that. You have to be a patron to get all of the other exclusive drops that we have, including Watch the Film, which we will be doing tomorrow. So you guys need to make sure you are locked in with that. We've got a game coming up Saturday against Penn State, but looking forward to the next home game. We've got Missouri, and we will be giving away tickets to that game as well. You have to be a member before the Wednesday night show in order to be eligible for this giveaway. So make sure you come on board with that. Maybe you aren't a member right now, but one of your friends wants to gift you a membership. You can definitely do gifted membership from a desktop on YouTube. You can go down and click to gift a membership, as many memberships as you would like to gift. You can do that there. And we appreciate those of you who have gone above and beyond to do that already. Member or not, just being present in the chat, you can come here and get a giveaway for a War Rapport mug sponsored by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Hashtag get your weight up in the comments. We are going to be doing that drawing here in about 20 minutes or so. You have to be present to win. Don't drop the hashtag and dip, or otherwise we will move on to the next person. Don't tempt me. Play around if you want to. I will definitely move on you. Anyway, yeah, we got to do that. And listen, I know last night was super stressful for literally everyone who is an Auburn fan, probably including the players, but we got a little remedy for you. Our guys at the Rogue Shop, if you guys didn't turn up in the Rogue Shop cart last night, then I don't know what's going on. And the way y'all are talking in the comment section, you will definitely need this for Penn State. So make sure you get your Rogue Shop on. Let's holler at them.
This episode of the War Report is brought to you in part by Rogue Shop. Looking to reduce stress or improve your quality of sleep? Rogue Shop has you covered with a wide range of premium products, including gummies, bath salts, and oils. Go to rogueshop.com and use code RAPPORT when you check out. That way, they know we sent you. All right?
Shouts out to the Rogue Shop for sure. Guys, don't forget to use code RAPPORT to get 10% off when you go get your gummies. I want to go ahead and grab some super chats real quick. Imani Smoot becoming one of my favorite posters with your optimism. We definitely need some of that this morning. Yeah. Auburn 42, Penn State 13. Mark it down. Auburn puts the college football world on notice. TJ shines in this game. The road to 15-0 continues. Good to see you, Imani. Good to see you.
Yeah, Imani Smoot is always gonna come through with the sunshine. I like it.
Yeah, I don't mind the sunshine. We're at that point though. We got to start talking about what they're doing and not what we hope they're going to do. You know, the preseason talk.
I mean, to Imani's point, what they're doing is winning football games.
Yeah,
we haven't lost yet. So until we lose, his prediction is 100% correct.
He's Michael can nobody in there.
I know. Listen, I get what you're saying. He's not talking. Nothing in that super chat talked about how they played. He said the road to 15-0. They haven't lost a game yet, so he's correct.
He's still on target. The goal is still intact.
All right.
Until it's not.
Yeah.
It's all good till it ain't.
Right. Cleveland Brown says the defense has been good, but we need to create some turnovers.
The defense has been
agree.
okay. Good. So where I will say our run defense has looked good.
Yeah.
Our run defense has looked good. And that's not even well, it's just such and such as the opponent. The run defense has looked good. Like what I look for is tendencies, and our tendencies in the run game, and even in our discipline in our pass rush, is that we're just not letting people go crazy. And we've had athletic quarterbacks in these first two games, some guys that could go nuts on the ground, right. And they haven't been able to because of the team speed and the way that we gang tackle, right? They're unfortunately, some of the times when we got there solo, we were missing them, but we don't have a ton of missed tackles out there, and the quality of the opponent does not dictate how well you tackle. You either tackle well or you don't. Now, there are some people who are more adept at breaking tackles. That's a different thing. But missing tackles is about technique and focus when you get there, right? And we don't have a ton of missed tackles out there. Where we're going to have to be better is in the suddenness of our pass rush, meaning a guy is there before the quarterback really has an opportunity to survey the field at all. Or we're going to have to be better on the back end so that we get more coverage sacks. You got to have one of the two. You either have to not give them time to look down the field, or you have to cover well enough until your defensive line can get to them. And I don't think that we've married the pass rush and the pass defense in the back end well at all in these first two games.
Do you think that a lot of that has to do with the philosophy in terms of bending but not breaking, in terms of keeping things in front of us from a pass perspective? Because if you got some short passes that are just there that we're giving up, you don't really have to survey the field as much at times, do you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's part of it. I don't think that we got picked apart to that level. To Shankapotismus' point, I will actually acknowledge something that he says for once in a positive way.
Shank, are you listening?
Cordero was hitting well-covered receivers. There were not, and I said this last night on the broadcast, there weren't a bunch of blown coverages where there was no Auburn DB in the area code. It was more so there either was a hole in the zone and he hit it, or he hit a guy that had a DB draped all over him. So I think people are talking about how quote unquote trash our secondary is. It's a little overblown considering those guys, the holes exist. I said this last night, a zone defense, holes exist in those. That's just how they work. So if your quarterback can exploit those holes, good on him. That's where your pass rush has to do something to try to negate his ability to see that, make him uncomfortable so that he doesn't know or see where you're going, which is part of why when you talk about a vanilla defense, you're not really doing a ton to try to confuse that guy. You're saying my athletes are better than yours. I don't need to confuse you. We're just going to go out there, line up and play, and we're just going to beat you. Cordero beat us a couple of times. Good on him. I don't know that we're going to see the same defense tried out against Penn State, but the problem I have there is if you don't practice it against a live opponent, how do you know it works in a game?
Right. Few comments here. Christian Crawford says TJ's passing is at 64% for the last two games. Y'all need to relax.
I mean, his pass completion percentage is not the issue. It's turnovers.
It's a turnover.
Right. So, like, he if you count how many times he threw it to the other team, his completion percentage is even higher. Mm-hmm. So we need to eliminate the negative plays. So again, I stress this over and over again when we're talking about quarterback play specifically. It's not about what the person's ceiling is. I don't want them to touch the floor so much. And TJ, for these first two games, has approached his floor a little too often.
Yeah, do not drop it low, is what we're saying.
Ed Darby asks, do we believe our defenders understand hot routes? Point. If we blitz the inside linebacker, does our corners know the hot route slant is coming?
I think this is a good point. I don't know that I would say that they don't understand it. And this is where, we get into questions about, and I talked about Pritchett last night, about him not playing the slant properly, right? Like the slant is a hard route to defend. I don't think he defended it properly, even with, what is coming. Like you can know it's coming and still not stop it. That's what made Joe Burrow so ridiculously hard to be able to defend against LSU. A well-thrown ball will always beat good coverage if your wide receiver can catch it, and make a catch with somebody right there with him. It's hard. It's super hard to be able to defend that well. I just still feel like we're giving too much cushion on that route. And so to Ed's point, do we recognize this is what the hot route is off of this and understand how to counter it? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, for sure. And guys, let's talk about pass rush going into Penn State. And this was something when we played Penn State last year. Interesting enough, we didn't get as much of a pass rush on their quarterback as we would have liked. He was getting the ball out of his hands as well. So going into this game, what do you think we would expect to see defensively? Obviously, we're not going to be as base as we've been the past 2 weeks. Do we think, to your point, Ike, if you haven't seen it in a game, how do we know that it works? Is there any concerns about some of the new things we try to throw at Penn State and if it actually does work?
Yeah. I mean, again, execution is execution.
Right.
If you can't execute these simple things, what hope do I have that you're going to be able to execute more complicated concepts? Right. So, I mean, clean execution cleans up a lot of what we're talking about.
Yep.
And I mean, that's all it boils down to. The offensive look and the defensive game plans have looked pretty vanilla, and I think that was by design. But they have not executed it at a high level consistently through these first 2 games. So at what point does the consistency come in? Now, if they can do it. They can do it, because if you're going to win games or play inconsistently, your highs have to be really, really high to avoid the result of the really low lows. We saw it last season. High highs were Arkansas, right? High the whole game, right? High plus low was Ole Miss first half versus Ole Miss second half. Great first half, and it was a good thing it was, because if they had done that for what they did in the second half for 2 halves, they'd have lost that game handily. But they had enough cushion, and our defense was playing well enough because they started the game. The stat that Caesar gave at the beginning, at the top of the broadcast, talking about how many offensive possessions, plays we had versus how many they had, that's incredible. They ran almost twice as many plays as we did in the first half. And we're talking about defense as much because they were on the field significantly more.
Right.
So they've got to clean that up. It comes down to execution. I'm going to beat that drum. They just need to be able to execute. It's not going to matter what the game plan is if you can't execute. If you can't go out there and line up right and not hold when it's not necessary. What's disappointing about Shedd's holding was it was unnecessary.
Yeah.
It didn't help the play at all. That play was going to be successful no matter what. He did not need to hold, but he held. So, unforced errors, the schedule has already been rated the hardest in the country. You can't beat yourself. You got to make your opponents beat you. Yeah. All right, and we almost beat ourselves yesterday. That margin of error is just going to shrink as you start to get into the season. After Georgia State, we saw, that was probably one of the lowest lows of that season. We saw better play after that. So there is hope that it can get better.
That's true.
But I cannot blame anybody for not being able to project or see that right now. Right now, if you're having trouble seeing that right now, I can't argue with you. All I can say is there is precedent for it getting better after we look like this.
I want to talk about offensive line. I want to get it to that in terms of run blocking. But before we do that, I want to grab Thomas Sanders' super chat here, since we're talking defense. He says, am I the only one starting to miss the man-heavy coverage scheme under Kevin Steele? Thoughts, gentlemen?
I'm talking about missing Kevin Steele. Careful.
Well, he definitely said the scheme and not the man.
All right.
I
you can miss the man without missing the thing. You know what I'm saying?
Pause.
That's a good one. I just don't. I think we play man more than people are realizing, though.
Yeah.
And so I think when people say you miss the man scheme, you're not realizing how often we actually play man in these games. What you're missing is Carlton Davis and and McCrary, right? Like what you're missing are the personnel that were on the outside that made it really hard to throw into man coverage. But we also forget we used to get a lot of pass interference calls.
We did.
We used to get a lot of pass interference calls because that's how they were coached, was to be physical and get your hands on a guy. So we got way more PI calls. So you can which of the, like, we got to stop romanticizing the past. You forget the stuff because the bend but don't break defense that we have now was in existence under Kevin Steele.
There's no perfect defense, guys. There's going to be pros and cons with every approach. So to your point, Ike, you're going to be bump and run, aggressive in your face. Yeah, you're going to get some more flags thrown your way. You also got to make sure you guys get their heads turned around. I saw your comment in the Uzi about that. That happened a lot, even dating back to Muschamp's first year on the Plains when we were heavy man.
That is my biggest pet peeve on defense is the ball's in the air. And there's a couple ways you can play it that they're taught to play it. So, like, I think it was Ike that was talking about essentially like late hands.
No, so B. Will was talking about it.
Oh, yeah, the late hands, right? Like where they just, if you're playing the physical cues from the receiver, you're playing the man. And then as soon as he reaches out, you're trying to react quick and stop. But sometimes you got to get your head around. But when you don't get your head around and you're trying to play physical, that's when you get the PI calls. And unless you're Bama, they're going to call it. So you have to get your head around, man. You have to not make it so easy on the refs to throw that flag on those PIs, man. There were a couple of those calls that were trash yesterday. Like some of them calls were trash.
For sure.
And there was a couple where we got them, but I don't know. Like Kaufman late game got his head around on one.
Yeah, no, he played it perfectly, right?
Yeah.
You're physical with the guy because they're going to both be trying to like get hands on each other, right? You just have to get your hands off and your head around to knock the ball down because otherwise it's going to go in the offense's favor every single time if you're not looking back for the ball. Every time they're going to call that. Well, not every time, but 9 times out of 10, the defender's not going to get the benefit of the doubt there.
Right.
But I have to remind people about not wanting zone defenses. I said this before. I told you guys before the game they were going to play a lot of zone because the quarterback can run.
Right.
And if you're playing a bunch of man and your DBs have their head turned around the entire time, then you either got to spy, which I think we have enough speedy defenders to spy. I'm not ready to go there yet on Owen Papo, but I need him to figure out how to wrap up and tackle a little bit better, more consistently. He's fast enough to be a spy and make sure that guy doesn't get loose. Can he get there and get the man to the ground is the question that you got to ask yourself. Or do you turn to Cam Riley and have him do that? But Cam Riley, I think, is actually a little better in pass defense than Owen Papo. So you've got to figure that out, right? Or you've got to sit somebody down and say, hey, this game, you're not the guy to play linebacker for us because we need somebody who's going to make this tackle. How do you tell one of your team captains that?
Right.
Yeah. Some of them whiffs by Owen. That one whiff by Owen was terrible.
It was terrible.
That was as bad as it gets.
I have to go. I have not rewatched this game yet. I will as soon as we get off of here. But I don't know. Like, I don't even know what he was attempting to do when he got there. I was just like, I'm confused as to what happened here. You were there the minute the ball got there, and you completely missed. I don't know. I was thoroughly confused by that screen because I was just like, oh yeah, we had this sniffed out. Which props to the defense, played the screen game really well last night.
They did.
Weird segue. Last night, Jarquez Hunter scored a touchdown and did this like jump to kneel pray thing. And I feel like we need to name it. It was smooth. You remember like the Lutzy? You remember after he did the kick? He jumped and he went like this, but then he kneeled and prayed. And I was like, you know what? That's
like the superhero stance. When
yeah, for sure. He did a superhero landing on it. Guys, if you haven't seen it, go back and watch this.
I recall that. Yeah. He
Chat,
jumped in the air and then went right into a kneel.
Yeah, it was like he got midair. He was like, I'm gonna pray about this. I'm gonna thank the Lord for this touchdown. And it was amazing. And we need to name it.
So again, in the chat, I'm not questioning Owen Papo's talent. I'm questioning whether or not he's going to get and this was This has been a problem. Actually, if you go back and watch Owen Pappoe, this has been a problem for him since his freshman year. Is missing tackles. Like, that's not, he's fast, he's strong, he actually diagnoses plays really well. He doesn't finish the play often enough for me because he misses those tackles a lot. That's just a fact. Again, like, I'm not bagging Owen Pappoe. I know people hate when you say stuff negative about people. It's a thing that he needs to work on. NFL scouts are going to tell him this. Yeah, so right. Whether Ike Jones at the War Rapport says it or not, when he gets his NFL grade, I guarantee you they're going to talk about him missing tackles. I promise you they're going to talk about his perceived inability to flip his hips and play defenders, specifically running backs in the pass game. I promise you that will be a part of Owen Pappoe's NFL evaluation. I promise you.
Let's talk offensive line going into Penn State. Pro Football Focus was not kind. Pass pro, they graded out fairly well, but run blocking, the grades were pretty abysmal. It was tough the first half running the ball. We started having some success in the second half. Ike, you haven't watched film. You watched film throughout the first week, but you haven't had a chance to watch the film for this game.
Correct. I have not.
Was there anything that stood out with the offensive line to you in this game?
So offensive line, again, on first watch, first half, a lot of stalemates. Second half, they were getting movement. I don't know. I really don't know what the coaching staff went into halftime and told them, because really it was a completely different team the second half of that game. Literally from every standpoint, the team looked like a different team first and second half of the game. The offensive line looked okay in the run blocking, pass blocking. It wasn't terrible. I don't feel like TJ Finley was under pressure the entire night. I mean, he had his times where he had to scramble around. Some of it was bad snaps. Some of it was him dropping snaps. I don't know what was going on with that. But they felt like it was okay. It wasn't great. Wasn't terrible.
Gotcha. So, guys, it's kind of hard to I'm not sure what's the severity of Malcolm Johnson's injury. We did not see him. He was dressed out. I did see him dressed out, and he was going through drills, but didn't play.
Yeah. It's normal. You go out there and see how you feel, and then make a game time call on whether a guy can go or not.
Right. So it's kind of hard to kind of really talk about the receivers. I know, Mike, you pointed out Shedd's penalty on blocking, which that rarely even happens because Shedd is pretty clutch when it comes to run to blocking anyway. But our thoughts on the receivers, tight ends, we did mention Shanker. He was good in pass. Like he caught a few passes, but not much to make with the receivers given the passing game and the struggles with behind center. Any other closing thoughts before we get to the giveaway, gentlemen, about this game, before we put a bow on this game?
Yeah, I mean, it was not the performance. It was not the proverbial jump from week 1 to week 2 that people talk about. Yeah, I think a lot of people were hoping for, but it doesn't mean that this is what this team is going to be the rest of the season. But to B's point, like, you're running out of time because SEC play is coming, and I don't care who the opponent is. If you play like that, you're going to be at risk to lose because there's no guarantee that the bad opponent that you're playing is going to play bad that week if you give them enough chances with the football. Yeah, one of the best things I thought that Texas did to help themselves against Alabama was keeping, long, drawn-out drives, even if they didn't score. Like, keeping Bryce Young on the sideline was one of their best weapons. And we're giving them for them to run twice as many offensive plays than us in the first half. Like, that's a stat that can't continue. We'll get we'll get blown out next week if they do that. They give Penn State twice as many offensive plays as we have in the first half, and I'm not sure this team is built to come from behind, because I don't know, after putting our defense on the field for a whole half, I don't know that they're going to have what it takes to slow them down in the second half. It's going to be really rough going into the fourth quarter, and you're going to need a Herculean performance from somebody. So hopefully they get that together, and again, watch the tape, figure out how to motivate this team. This is the part of coaching. This is the part of coaching about why you get paid $5 million to do this. Is that you have to be able to not only look at X and O's, but you have to be able to coach the intangibles as well, too. You have to be able to motivate guys, help your team maintain focus. You have to do all these little things that help you avoid lackluster performances against teams like this. Brian Harsin gave a lot of credit to San Jose State for being a good football team in the post-game presser. And I can appreciate the respect for the opponent. But all due respect, coach, you should have blown them the hell out. Should have blown them out. So, I mean, you were the better football team. You had the better players, right? You should have the better coaches. This should have been a blowout. It wasn't, and I don't think it was because San Jose State is a good football team. I think it was because of what we didn't do to come in prepared.
Yeah.
So, that's my last thoughts on this game.
Well, guys, listen, with that, let's get to it. We are giving away something today, as we always do in our lives. We're giving away a mug courtesy of GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Shout out to Walt for being a sponsor of this particular segment and giveaway. Guys, if you want to enter to win, you see it there. Hashtag get your weight up in the comments. If you haven't done it yet, maybe next time, because Ike's about to draw. Go ahead, Ike.
We are in it. 79 people have an opportunity to win a mug today. Who is it going to be? If they're not here, we will definitely redraw. But until then, the person who is winning this mug, courtesy of GWT2
Caveman
Energy
Life
Consulting Services, is Caveman Life Coach. So go ahead and let us know you are still here. If not, we'll get this redraw on and move on with our lives.
If you feel a way about
You won again?
Yeah. Did he win before?
Did he?
He won the Penn State tickets.
Oh, I guess he
He
just...
won the Penn State. Good for him, man. He was just complaining that he never wins anything the other day to me. He was like, I've been on there for 2 years and I never won nothing.
Well,
Lightning struck twice in 1 week.
There you go. All you had to do was complain.
Buy a lottery ticket right now. Who knows? Might be your time.
For sure. Yeah, I got guess we can just get to a few comments here.
Yeah.
Before we get into what do we see, David, props to the fans in the stadium. They saved the first half. Listen.
Yeah, man.
They did. And props to them for toughening it out through that rain that happened for about all of like a minute or two. There were people actually heading out of the stadium because of the rain. So for them to kind of not leave, support, yes, definitely props to the fans. Roderick Montgomery, we are a running team, point blank, period. We need to own that identity. The best way to help our QBs is a great running game. War Eagle. Thoughts, gentlemen?
I agree, man. If you can keep the ball on the ground, you can reduce a lot of mistakes, but you got to be able to get pushed, and you have to, you've got to play big boy football, and they graded out poorly in that area. So, I still think the best route to having a good running game is having a balanced attack where teams have to respect you through the air, so they cannot just load the box to stop. Because right now, again, if I'm looking at Auburn on tape through 2 weeks, I'm just coming after these quarterbacks, and I'm going to make them beat me.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I'm coming after both. It doesn't matter which one's in the game. I'm a little bit more worried about Robbie because if you over pursue, he could take one to the house on you.
Right.
But I just don't, I don't know that I'm super worried about either because eventually you're going to have to throw. Yeah. And I don't think we have the type of line where we can just mash like we did in 2010 with Cam or like in 2013 with Nick Marshall. I don't even with Robbie in there, I don't think we can run that kind of offense. So yeah, I think that's the best route to having a good running game. They look dangerous when Robbie is in there running that read option. I don't know, it's rarely been stopped this season. So I don't know. I mean, he may not be thrilled with putting his body on the line every play, but
right. Then there's that. Caveman Life Coach, you mugs better tuck your mugs in because that mug is going home with this mug. That's his way of saying he's here.
Yeah.
And so you know what to do, sir. Email us business at the War Rapport to claim your prize. Give us your name, physical address, and we will send that mug to you, good sir. Congratulations. All right, guys. Got one more here, or a couple of more. Timothy Monk says Shed was surprised and subsequently dropped the Hail Mary TD.
Ah, man, that hurt my heart a little
Oh
bit,
man,
because
You
it
could've
looked
put
like it
Sammy
was
Coates.
gonna drop right in his hands, but it took an angle I think he didn't expect. I was like,
Yeah, it was a tough ricochet.
Yeah, because it was coming right to his face. So
Yeah.
it's like anything that happens there. So
that was a good throw.
yeah,
It was.
That was a really good Hail Mary
It was
throw.
actually the perfect Hail Mary throw. He put a ton of air under it. It got all the way to the end zone, and he gave his guys a shot to get to it. Like that, you can't ask for anything better than that in a Hail Mary. Just didn't get the tip that we wanted. So
I am Ostella. Y'all, I love my wife. She is a converted. She is a converted from Alabama to Auburn. Y'all need to pray. TJ, get it together.
hey,
Okay.
at least you know,
whenever you can
we
get her
know
to convert,
that
that's a
salvation
win.
has happened in your household, and
And some peace.
Jesus is
glad.
real.
Yeah,
He will save you if you ask him.
Yeah, that's some peace in your house, for sure. So yeah, we celebrate with you, good sir. Let's get into some people's favorite segment. Let's talk.
What did we see?
Oof.
Do we Mike's excited. Who wants to go first? Am I going first? How do we want to do this, gentlemen?
I'll go first because I'm talking about the thing that I know everybody has been talking most about.
Yeah.
And that is Nebraska is currently frosted. It's a cold day in Nebraska.
What?
It's a cold day in Nebraska. They've let go of the Scott Frost experiment. Scott Frost and his fictitious national championship. Scott Frost and his coming home parade where he thought he was going to make the I'm coming home like LeBron speech and go back to glory. Scott Frost and his losing to every mediocre team that exists in college football right now. Scott Frost, Mr. Frosted Flakes, there, not so great. Scott Frost, sir, I hope you have fun coaching in high school. I don't know who's going to give Scott Frost a coaching opportunity now after his recent journey into the state of Nebraska. The Cornhuskers are searching for a new coach. A lot of people are screaming for Hugh Freeze, but apparently Hugh Freeze is the name everybody throws out every single time that there's a coaching search that exists. So I don't know what Nebraska is going to do at this point going forward. What I do know is that I'm thankful for the mediocrity there because we got a flip out of them recently in a commitment. And I just look forward to seeing Nebraska continue to be mediocre and be one of those programs that's mediocre and allows us to feel better about the things that we do in mediocrity, because today we can all celebrate the fact that as Auburn fans, at least we're not Nebraska.
Facts.
Thank you, Scott Frost.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Facts. That's all facts.
Yeah, that's definitely the truth there.
Factual statements.
I'll go next because
wait, Caesar. You know what's wild about the Scott Frost thing, Ike, is that if they had waited 5 weeks, they would have saved like $8 million.
But they couldn't because it got so bad so fast.
Like literally, if they had fired him 5 weeks from now, his buyout would have dropped from like 16 million to 7 or something like that, or 14 to 7. It was a lot of money. It was a significant amount of money they're paying to let him go early in the season.
Listen, sometimes that seat gets so hot, can't wait, bro.
Oh my goodness, $7 million worth of hot.
Yeah.
You don't think they might have done that because he's like an old legacy letterman?
Yeah.
Like, listen, Scott, all right, man, listen, it's not working. We'll give you the extra money. But
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. You know what? That's a good point. Like maybe as a favor to him.
Right.
Like, man, I need friends like that. $7 million.
Hey, get in the coaching football, have 2 good seasons as a coordinator, get that big head coaching job, and quit, and you'll be fine for the rest of your life.
I'm telling you, I don't know, man.
I think a small school might pick him up.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Yeah.
That's where he was. That's where he was before he got to Nebraska.
Maybe they will assume he can reproduce whatever he had at UCF.
Yeah,
but
he can go Tulane it.
I'm wondering if it was
Tulane.
He could just wait till the UCF job comes back open. It'll just be a couple years. He can go right back home.
Which brings me, UCF fans.
Oh man! Wow.
2 years ago. Was it 2 years or was it last? It was last year. Last year, we tried to tell you. Because you know what we kept hearing from you guys? We kept being reminded of your undefeated season, which didn't make sense because you beat the guy that you got. That never made sense. You didn't want to hear anything we had to say about your head coach. Nothing. You want to hear nothing about him. We tried to warn you. We tried to tell you that, hey, we're here when things get tough. Okay? We understand what you're about to go through. They played Louisville, and in true Gus fashion, their offense got off to a strong start. It looks like they were just going to be running up and down the field all game. And then they, as usual and expected under Gus Malzahn, his offense hits the wall and they go scoreless for several drives. Travis Williams' defense was looking great, getting stops. Louisville has a pretty dynamic QB back there. He wasn't really eating a lot early in the game, but because Travis Williams' defense had to stay on the field, Louisville eventually figured it out, and they climbed their way back into the lead and never looked back. Remind you of anything, guys, for the past 8 years or past before our new coach? What is even so funny about this, Gus got this whole fan base tripping that UCF's Twitter posted the final tweet and put in a size 4 font the score of the game. What? Go look at it. That's what Gus is doing to this fan base. You see big final, and you have to put out your magnifying glass to see the score. That's how he has UCF fans feeling right now. I just want to let you guys know we're here for you. We understand. And it's just year 2 for you guys. You got 6 more to go. You got 6 more of this, 6 more years of this to go.
Only if he pulls off some miraculous run.
Wait for it. He'll do it. Yeah. He'll do it. He'll do it. He will definitely do it. And here's what's so bad about where UCF is. The least thing we could say is that when a QB transferred from Gus, he didn't go anywhere successful. Which brings me to Dylan Gabriel. Yesterday, for Oklahoma, he went 21 for 28, 296 yards and 3 touchdowns. You're watching your QB go out here and tear it up at Oklahoma, and you could have had him.
What Plumlee did. What did Plumlee do?
Somebody actually put that stat line. 16 of 34. Thanks. Yeah, it's over. 16 of 34. 131 yards and an INT.
UCF fans
34 is yikes level.
Hey, but he ran the ball well at times.
Yeah.
No. Okay. All right. Fine. UCF fans, whenever I think this is Sunday, isn't there a scripture in the Bible, Mike and B, that says pride comes before the fall? I tried to warn
pride
you guys.
Before destruction and a haughty spirit comes before the fall is what it says.
Well, get biblical on.
Yeah.
Preach up.
Yeah.
UCF.
We're here for you. Whenever you're ready to stop yelling at your faux championship and the fact that you beat us with the coach against the coach that you have now, we're here for you. Okay? Because only we know how you feel. Okay? All right.
This is a really good question by Ben Bloodworth. How is Gus so good at getting the exact same performance out of every quarterback? Consistency.
All right.
That's how you know it's Gus.
Ben's been on fire lately. Ben has been on fire lately.
That is hilarious, bro.
Caesar, speak for yourself. I ain't here for nobody. Screw them. They came after me on Twitter. They came after me on my Twitters when I tried to tell them, hey,
that's fine. That's fine, Mike.
I'm okay with the hope.
Shoot.
Just don't come for
Petty
Auburn
Pendergrass.
fans. Just don't come for us. They came for me. And I'm like, hey, listen, you just might want to check who your coach is. But okay, like, I'm going to be quiet. And I'm going to let this play out. And it's going to look good at times. Because nobody's saying he's the worst coach ever. Just temper your expectations. You know, it's a lot of money to pay for inconsistencies. I don't know, man. Like, listen.
No, listen. Now, here's the thing, because UCF fans I understand the arrogance because you were having a lot of fun. I mean, listen,
it's fun at times.
Scott Frost he had resurrected the program, right?
Quick
then
turnaround.
He leaves. Then he leaves. You still having success. So you're thinking, hey, Gus coached at Auburn. He went to a national championship. Why not? Keep the party going. No, friends. No.
Yeah. No.
There's a reason he's at UCF. If he was that good, he'd still be at Auburn.
He'd still be here. Yeah. No, but again, the narrative was we shouldn't have fired.
Because who else is going to beat Bama 3 out of 8 times? Like that. Yeah. That was entirely Gus's value on the national stage.
Well, yeah,
he was
more than Saban's assistants did.
He was consistently above 500, and he always had you within a breath of feeling like you were there. And that was we were close feeling. Every year it felt like next year was going to be the year. We're going to turn the corner next year because we've seen it happen before. He can get us back there. In 2017 reminded everybody he can get you close.
Yeah. Well, it's Auburn, so you're always going to get decent athletes here. You're always going to get Jarquez Hunter type athletes here that nobody sees coming, but they're definitely like, you know, he was a 3-star that was really a 4 or 5-star type guy. You're going to get those guys here. The point is that your offensive play calling and your QB development were lacking. Your system did not prepare guys for the NFL at a high level. You know,
and it wasn't innovative.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the bottom line is he just never evolved, and he just seemed willing to die on that hill. Now you're taking that same thing to UCF, and I'm like, man, like, I'm not saying he's selling snake oil, but how many times can somebody buy the same product, read the same review, and then somebody else buy the same product?
Yeah,
I don't get it. I don't get it.
Who's next? Is it you, Mike?
I think it's me.
All right. Let's go.
Lots of sadness around college football this weekend. We saw many teams lose. Fortunately, Auburn did not make the B. Will's bums list. A fact of which I'm happy because we will give the smoke to our own school. But this week, we saved the smoke for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Yikes, man. Yikes. You lost to Marshall. You look like crap.
Yeah.
I'm not going to use the other word because it's Sunday. But you look like crap. You didn't play well. And the playoff is coming. You guys aren't in a conference. It's time for Notre Dame arrogance to just come down 5 notches. This whole we invented football thing that they have, this whole we're up there with Ohio State and Alabama and Texas in the annals of greatness. This is a low. What are they, 0-3? Is it 0-3 now?
0-2 this year, but I think he's the first. Someone told me he's the first QB. I mean, he's the first coach in Notre Dame history to start off 0-3.
0-3, man, for this coach. I hate it for him. He seems like a nice guy. But your fans make it easy for me to give this speech today. Notre Dame sucks. And I don't have a whole lot to say about this, guys, before I turn this over to B. Will. Again, I'm ceding my time, most of my time, to the better speech today. But Notre Dame sucks. And I don't want to hear anything from you until you join the conference. And you have to recruit against geographical rivals consistently. Join the damn conference, man. Join the conference. You suck. And you suck by yourself. You suck independently. You are an independent a-hole. You suck by yourself. Lone wolf.
That's good.
Right? BYU is independent, and they're better than you. Come on, man. You are falling behind BYU as a program. I know the number to a good therapist if you guys need to talk to somebody about it. But the truth was, Brian Kelly was a mid coach. He knew how to manage his mess. Now he's gone, and you have to replace his midness. And you're finding out maybe as mid as he was, he overachieved a little bit with this program. You lost to Marshall. And before anybody comes at me about us struggling with San Jose State, I tweeted out yesterday, a struggle win is greater than a struggle loss any day. Because lots of people had struggle losses. Notre Dame made the list. And I can't wait to hear what B. Will is going to have to say about them on the next episode of B. Will's Bums. Premiering whenever he does it. And coming to a pod near you. So that's all I've got. Notre Dame, I mean, we just have to remember, like, you know, if you ever get in a place where you feel like you're okay with Notre Dame, just remember they killed a guy. And that guy could have been me. That guy could have been me.
That's not funny, but the way you judge the judgment.
I am judging. You sent a camera guy up on a scissor lift to film football practice in 30-mile-per-hour winds.
Oh man, that's
negligence.
Terrible. That's terrible.
I hope you lose every game from now until the end of the season. The dude tweeted before he died, "This is terrifying." And the head football coach never stopped. Nobody. Football was so important. Nobody said, "Let's get the guy on the lift out of the 30-mile-per-hour winds." Notre Dame, I mean, the family was very gracious about it, but I've been sour on Notre Dame since. And when Bama gave you that absolute beatdown in 2012, you earned it. Just like you earned this whooping from Marshall. Because y'all may have a movie with Rudy, but damn it, Marshall came in and said, "We got a movie too. We are Marshall." They made a movie about us too. You ain't special. Screw Notre Dame. I'm done with them fighting Irish. Y'all ain't fighting nothing. You just Irish. That's it. No fight. No fight. Just take the fighting part off. You lost to Marshall. I don't want to hear it.
Oh man.
I think you ended up using your time, Mike.
Okay, my bad. I extend more time to B. Will. This is why I came today. This is the only reason I'm on the show today. I'd be taking a nap right now. Let's go.
Guys, I feel like I've done all of us a disservice because I've talked about Jimbo Fisher. Oh, let me put it up. I'm sorry, I didn't even put my little scroll up. Where's my scroll? For all who have listened to the first episode,
can you call him by his
Jimothy T. Fisher?
That's what's on the birth certificate.
And the T is for trash. If you listen to the first episode of the Bundle List, right? I tell you why and how I hate. I don't hate anybody who is trying their best and getting something that I'm not getting. That is despicable hate. That's not what I want. I want people who get praise to deserve it, who get money to deserve it. I want people who are heralded as great to be deserving of that heralding. That's why Nick Saban's always on my list. Jimbo Fisher is a very rare case. Do you know why? We have a cycle of coaching in NCAA football that starts with being a hot coordinator, a hot group of 5 head coach, and then a bad head coach at a major program. Usually after that, they sink into the doldrums. They have to be an assistant on somebody's staff. They fight their way back up to get a group of 5 head coaching job. And then maybe they get a second chance on the major stage. They get a second chance. Bobby Petrino got an opportunity to come back and end up at Louisville again. It happens. Who's doing that right now? What's his name at Liberty? Hugh Freeze. The first name off everybody's lips when a head coaching job comes open. Ed Orgeron probably will never coach again in his life.
No.
He got the money. He played the cycle. He got the win. He got out the game. Gene Chizik has his name come back up for any head coaching jobs since he won a national championship as a head coach. No. Then you got guys like the guy who was our offensive coordinator in 2020, right? He had a shot, hot coordinator for Clemson.
Don't do that to Lawrence today.
Head coach at SMU. All right, showed well, went to Arkansas, flamed out. He's out of here. I have a problem. You see, Jimbo Fisher won a national championship in 2013, made the first playoff in 2014. It was so evident to me that it was the product of exceptional talent, which he was not even responsible for recruiting. The legend of Bobby Bowden built Florida State, and it filled the cupboard at Florida State. Jimbo made the best of the situation he had. That deserves some credit, sure. Since then, Jimbo Fisher has coach in the country, that Scott Frost included, because Scott Frost got what he deserved today. Scott Frost got what he deserved. Ed Orgeron got what he deserved. Gene Chizik got what he deserved. How do you go from a national championship at what was a recruiting powerhouse to letting Clemson get on the rise on your watch, letting your team fall off a cliff? The offensive line fell off a cliff. Players got seriously injured at quarterback. Francois couldn't finish the season, and it wasn't an ankle or an ACL. It was rib injuries. Once the team finishes falling apart, you run. You run to the idiots who are willing to pay any amount of money to have a head coach that could do something better than Kevin Sumlin. Because Kevin Sumlin was a bad head coach. Well, you were not to be outdone, were you, Timothy? No. In the first 50 games as head coach, Kevin Sumlin was 36-14. Jimothy Fisher, 35-15. Ranked wins, Jimbo 7, Kevin Sumlin 9. Ranked road wins, Jimbo 0, Kevin Sumlin 5. Losses to G5 schools. Well, you couldn't be outdone, could you, Jimbo? You had to bring it on home. He didn't lose any group. I've got to do this. The fact that they re-upped his contract last year because he beat Bama, made his buyout close to $100 million for what? For a season where Kellen Mond just didn't look terrible and okay? That's worth $100 million? What have they done ever besides be okay in the 1 year that was literally an exception, not just on the field for them, but for the entirety of college football? I have never heard of any professional getting so much money for being so mediocre / bad at their job. I have no idea whose nudes he has, whose wife's sex tape he is in possession of. Something is happening. You are equipped with the best recruiting class ever. They say, we will pay you. We will overpay you. We will pay these recruits. Please. Texas A&M is the most desperate rich guy you have ever seen, trolling bars and begging any girl who looks moderately decent. Maybe she'll go for it because you look terrible. Maybe you're an old dude with hair, but you got money. Look, you picked the wrong girl. You saddled up to the wrong one. She is not it, boss. It's not working. He has been the same dude since day one. He shouldn't even be a head coach. He should be head coaching. I don't know, Troy. He shouldn't even be a head coach. I'm so astounded. I can't believe this. I want to fail and get richer when I fail. I want that. That's not the American dream. The American dream is working hard and getting rich. This is something different. I want this. Maybe I am a hater. I want what Jimbo has right now. I want to fail and get rich failing. And when I do fail, I want the person I am failing to pay me more so I can get richer.
He said he want to fail up. I want to bail up like Jimbo.
If you fire this man, I don't know what the buyout is now. If you fire this man, it was $95 million before December of last year. Maybe it's just a cool, 80 something million or so. Haynes King is not it. We saw I watched the first game last week. I saw one half. Haynes King ain't it. If I can see that with my regular, do not have 35 years of college football experience eyes, what are you doing? What are you doing? What's going on? Can somebody explain this to me? Why are they ranked number 6? Based on what? Because they beat Bama? Who cares? I saw Bo Nix beat Bama. I saw Gus Malzahn beat Bama. How are they doing? How's it looking? Does that make them good quarterbacks? Does that make Gus Malzahn a good coach? No. Beating Bama doesn't mean shit if you can't beat Bama every week.
Yes. Hey.
I'm so tired of these people, man. I'm tired of it. And you know what? In the back of my head, I'm thinking, so he must do that like real fast talk thing when he get in there with the board. Hey, Jimbo, y'all don't look so good this week. Oh, man, we're just gonna we're gonna get together. It's just something we gotta take care of. And hey, he's gonna look great. It's gonna be real good. Does anybody fall for that? Does whoever's writing the checks at Texas A&M fall for that? Does that happen? It can't be that simple. You can't get to be that wealthy and fall for a con man like that. Like if I heard anybody talking that fast, I'm gonna stop listening to him. I'm gonna walk away. But somebody up in that administration just loves to hear this man talk, and he must talk his way right out of any consequences and right into a pay raise every time he fails. I'm jealous. Now I'm jealous. Now I'm convinced. I'm jealous. I want more money right now for doing less than I've been doing recently. Everybody listen. War Rapport, we full time. Ike is full time. Mike is full time. B. Will is full time. Listen, y'all. I quit doing the pods. I'm just gonna tweet. That's all I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna tweet from now on. All right. I'm gonna make statements about how we haven't seen quarterbacking in 30 years so good, and then I want $10,000 more per month than I'm getting right now because that's the Jimbo Fisher plan. So thank you all. I'm gonna put my request in officially and formally to make that happen. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm done.
This is very tabloidish, but I have a theory about Jimbo. There was a former Florida wide receiver named Tyler Jacobs. And his wife cheated on him with this Florida receiver and then another tennis player of Florida. And it felt like Jimbo wasn't the same after. Like his life started things started going downhill at FSU real quick after this happened. I don't know if you guys saw any of this, but it was all over.
I've heard it.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, his wife, whose name I shit you not is Candy.
Yeah,
cheated on him with a Florida football star, and then Jimbo just forgot how to coach apparently after that.
Before we move on. Yeah, that's great. Did not to spoil to you how the sauce is made. B wasn't even feeling it today, but he turned in one of the most golden performances.
Hey, listen.
When it's Ingu, it's Ingu though.
Do you guys know those sideline Twitter accounts?
The Gatorade.
Yeah.
The sideline Twitter accounts, so it's like sideline whatever school. And I'm in the Big Game Boomer group chat on Twitter.
Thanks, Cleveland.
And there was a guy in that the sideline Texas A&M group guy is in there. And anytime anybody says anything, this dude out of the blue will just slander Auburn. Like, you could be like, hey, guys, how's the weather today? He'd be like, Auburn sucks. And I'm like, bro, we weren't even part of the conversation. Man, I went in there looking for him last night. I was like, bro, come on out.
Was he in there?
Yes, he was in there. He was in there. He was like ignoring my comments. And I was like, you're not going to ignore me. I'm going to keep typing in this chat until you answer because you've been slandering Auburn for the last 2 weeks for no reason at all. And you just lost. Who did they lose to be?
App State.
App State. You lost to App State. Start a Twitter space and explain yourself to the general public.
You know what's wild about that loss? Like I said this from the account while we were watching it. Last year, Brian Harsin pull Bo Nix when it looks like, all right, it's not going to happen for you. So let's get somebody else in here. You saw, like, I don't think there was at any point you saw, okay, Haynes King definitely going to turn this out. Nothing was changing. Like, the momentum didn't pick up. Nothing happened there that let you think, okay, he's got it. Nothing from the first game and definitely nothing in the second game. You the coach, man. What did he tell Max Johnson to get him there? That's what I want to know. Max Johnson was slanging it to Keyshawn Butte and much better talent, honestly, team wide. I don't even. Mike tried to give A&M some grace last year because their O-line had left at the end of 2020.
Yeah, they graduated their whole O-line. Okay,
all right. So a lot of teams deal with graduation and departures. This is year 2 of App State really being able to stuff these. They only scored 7 offensive points. 7 of those was a kickoff return. 7 offensive points. It's not like App State, UNC.
Oh boy,
App State couldn't stop UNC. They gave up 63 to them. 7 points at home.
Yeah. So I mean, I think this takes us back to a larger conversation about QB and why it's important to be able to develop and recruit at that position. Because your O-line, no matter how well you recruit, at some point is going to go through cycles where they don't play well. And I think that, again, that's his bigger knock is not that O-line. It's his QB recruiting. Like, you don't have a QB who can deal with a little pressure. I mean, look at what Bryce Young is having to deal with the last 2 years. Right. That line is awful. And you cannot accuse Bama of not being able to recruit or develop, right? But they found a transcendent quarterback. So at least they're still talking about W's instead of L's. And Jimbo has not been able to do that, right? Yeah. With quarterback. I think it all comes back to you can't find a quarterback that, and this is where most people in college football are. If you don't have a dynamic quarterback, you need everything else around that guy to be really, really good. Like Georgia had a team around Stetson Bennett last year. And, there was a guy in our comments that was really all over me about this when I was saying, I think that Stetson Bennett is going to need to raise his game if they're going to repeat, because you can't count on the team around him being that good year over year. Everybody goes through cycles. Now, the defense still looks pretty good. We'll see once they're tested in conference play. But it appears, at least initially, that Stetson Bennett has raised his game somewhat. He looks like a play. He didn't look like a game manager through the first 2 weeks. He looks like a playmaker.
Right.
And they may need him to be that this year if they're faulty in other areas, because as good as they were on defense last year, it didn't stop them from taking that ass whooping in the SEC championship game.
Yeah,
against Bama. So having and being able to recruit and develop at the quarterback position is so important for your offensive flow, no matter where you're at in college football, because the conditions around the quarterback are not always going to be perfect, and you need a guy who elevates the rest of the offense, rather than a guy that you have to prop up with everybody else, because you better have a great O-line and go get it receivers, 50-50 receivers and running backs and all that stuff. If you got a quarterback who is only a game manager and, plays just a little below average.
And it almost seems like that's what Jimbo wants, because
that's what
A&M's leading receiver was a tight end last year.
Right. But in the one championship you had a playmaker. Right?
Who had receivers.
They had everything on that team.
Yeah. Jameis Winston was a playmaker.
They had Kelvin Benjamin was, of course, the winning pass. Who was the guy who threw? He was a running back for the Falcons for a long time. He played in that Super Bowl.
I know who you're talking about. Was it Cooks?
No, it wasn't.
No.
Cook? He don't play.
No. There was another Florida State running back.
Freeman.
Freeman.
Mm-hmm. Defensive tackle, they had some dogs. Listen, Florida State was stacked from top to bottom in a way. Like, if we go back and look at that roster and then track it to the NFL, there's a lot of carryover there. And you don't, some of it is dumb luck, right? I absolutely. Some of it is dumb luck, because everybody's recruiting. Bama's recruiting 5 stars. Georgia's recruiting 5 stars. Ohio State's recruiting 5 stars. Bama's talent that they have recruited has not worked out for them very well here recently. We know they're getting all the DBs that are 5 stars. They're getting toasted by passing quarterbacks the last few years. Their DB play has been diminishing for years now, but we know they're getting the recruits. It's not just the recruiting star. It's not that simple. It's still coaching. It's still development. It's still identifying talent. But Jimbo I don't know if he wants a dynamic quarterback. To your point, see what he got Kellen Mond in there, kept him, and said, yeah, just manage this a little bit. We're gonna run the ball. That's all he did. And everybody's like, Kellen Mond. But he ain't do anything. He had the best offensive line in the conference. They ran the ball like crazy, and he made a throw here and there. That's all we great. That's a great job. Well, because you won 10 games in the COVID year.
Got him in the league. Got him in the league, though.
In the league,
that
no
bar
more.
is so low, man. All them offensive linemen, well, they got to the league, so they got what they were due. But they didn't get that bump up that Jimbo got. Dang. All them offensive linemen, man. They did that work for Jimbo.
Yeah. Before we get out of here, guys, Ed Darby, Marcus M. Dillion, Tua,
Marcus
Cordero,
Mariota,
Marcus Mariota, Hawaii
Gabriel,
QBs.
Tua. Yeah.
We might
They
want to recruit
they doing their thing down there.
For sure. Lisa Wise, late due to church, but in the midst of frustration, I realized our defense allowed 1 TD, and that was after a bogus pass interference call.
They did well in the red zone to keep them out of the end zone. San Jose State killed themselves a lot in the red zone with penalties. So that goes back to the earlier statement about props to the crowd for just making it really loud and difficult for them to communicate once they got to the red zone. They got so close to the student section and they couldn't hear anything. And that offensive line was jumpy. So, yeah, man, gutted out a good win or bad win. Win doesn't matter. It happened.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys. Appreciate you hanging out with us. I tell the people why they need to become a patron because you got some content tomorrow.
Yeah, we're going to be watching the film. Again, I don't know how many of you actually want to go back and watch this game, but we're going to do it anyway. We're going to watch it, and we're going to painfully have to relive it, but try to figure out, are there things that we can build upon? Are there things that looked bad at first glance, but maybe weren't as bad as we thought? We will take a look at that, but you have to be a patron and in order to be able to see that content. So $5.99 is what's going to get you there. Maybe you can't afford it, but maybe one of your friends can. They can gift memberships to the War Rapport now on YouTube. You'd have to be on a desktop to be able to do the gifting. We appreciate those of you who have taken the opportunity to gift memberships to others and be a part of the War Rapport family. Another benefit of being a member is you get free tickets. So we're giving away tickets to the upcoming Missouri game. So every home game we'll be giving at least a pair of tickets away. Missouri is the next home game we're giving them away from. We've already given away our tickets for the Penn State game. So thank you to those of you who support the War Rapport, but you have to be a member to do that. Every show we give away something. We are props to Caveman Life Coach for getting the mug today. But if you didn't get an opportunity to win something for free, you can go and purchase something. That's another way that you can definitely support the great content that we're putting out here at the War Rapport. Head over to the warrapport.com, our new website, and shop there with us to get whatever type of merch that you want to be able to purchase. Also, we are on pod. So if you want to hear some of this stuff back, maybe you want to relive the Jimbo rant in audio format, you can go and do that here sometime this week on the Auburn Express, powered by the War Rapport. You can take a listen to that on any place in which you listen to podcasts. So props to them over there at props to Be Will, I should say, for getting that stuff up consistently for us every week. And we appreciate those that are going over there and listening.
Guys, we appreciate you hanging out with us. Again, shout out to our show sponsor, Athletic Architects. Please be sure to visit them at buildthehouse.com if you're interested in starting your LLC. Guys, share this video on social media, Facebook, Twitter. Use the hashtag. Smash the like button before you get out of here. If you're new to our channel, please hit the subscribe button as well. If you want to interact with us on social media, you can find us Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at The War Rapport. We are TW Rapport on TikTok. That's it for now, guys. We will be back. We'll be previewing the Penn State game during the midweek report. We'll see you then. But until then, enjoy the rest of your weekend. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.